Hello everyone, I'm Boyd Hilton. Welcome to a huge night for European football and an even bigger night for brilliant European quality drama. This is a BAFTA and Netflix TV Q&A for Lupin Part 2. Today's session is part of BAFTA's Learning and New Talent programme, which aims to inspire industry practitioners and the public through sharing craft insights, championing underrepresented voices, and exploring key issues facing our industry. If you'd like to catch up on any previous events, head to the BAFTA Guru YouTube channel and BAFTA SoundCloud. We'll be taking audience questions, and so for those of you attending on Zoom, please submit these via the Q&A function throughout the discussion, and I'll get to them towards the end of the Q&A. And for our YouTube audience, please put your questions in the comments section. If you're a member of the press, please can you state your name and publication alongside your question. Closed captioning is available now, which you can turn on at the bottom of your screen. And there's also a live transcript, which you can follow, and the link is in the chat. But without further ado, let's welcome our brilliant panel, writer and co-creator of Lupin, Georges K. Georges K, I'm getting very French on you, George, welcome. And producer Isabelle Degeorges, welcome Isabelle. And the star of the show, Omar Sy, welcome Omar.
Hi, thank you.
Let's talk about this. This is obviously part 2 of Lupin. Part 1 dropped earlier this year, the first 5 episodes, and the second 5 episodes arrived recently. George, was that always the plan that you divide this first series into 2 chunks? And also kind of the second section feels slightly different tonally in that Assane Diop faces big emotional moments as well as the brilliant fun that we've been used to so far in the show.
It was a little bit, we had, there was COVID last year, obviously, while we were filming part 1. We have a part 1 and part 2 is a sort of, is the same story. It's the story of the Queen's necklace, which Assane robs in episode 1 at the Louvre. But it's also the beginning of a story about revenge to avenge the death of Babacar and to get revenge on Pellegrini, who's the great antagonists of part 1 and 2. So part 2 is a continuation of part 1. It answers a lot of the questions dramatically that we pose in part 1, and they should be seen as kind of one origin story of Assane Diop as we kind of encounter him. We did create it and write it as a 10-parter. As we were kind of in production, there was the Netflix were beginning to get this idea that maybe we drop them into chunks of 5. So as that conversation was happening, we were able to write into that, and we were able to create that cliffhanger that you get at the end of part 1. But we also knew we wouldn't be too long before we were back, so we could drop quite a hard cliffhanger. Because I think if we'd done that cliffhanger at the end of part 1 and not reappeared for 18 months, it would have been quite sort of frustrating. But we knew we were coming back soon. So the answer was a bit of both. It was kind of conceived as we were making the show, and COVID meant we had a little bit of a break, which kind of, I think, confirmed that that's the way we were going to do it.
And Isabelle, did COVID present particular challenges for the filming of the second half of the series?
Yes, absolutely. It was very hard to begin after COVID, but I think it was the same for every production all over the world, because everybody was being careful at everything, and it was not usual for us. And we were always afraid that somebody arrives on the set with COVID, so we had to take a lot of precautions to prevent that. So yes, it was very challenging.
And Omar, did you think there was in the second lot of episodes that Assane has to deal with not only just the kind of challenges that he dealt with in the first 5, but there's a real emotional undercurrent, I think, in the second load of episodes, particularly involving his son, etc., and the kidnapping. How did you find that experience of playing those scenes?
That was really, really interesting, because that's exactly what we wanted to have. We wanted to have, like, on the first part, Assane being like the master of the game, the mastermind always has a step ahead of everything. And on the second part, he's more like under his emotions. So I see that as a Hassan, is playing with his mind on the first part and with his heart on the second part, and it's very interesting to see the two level of emotions and the two level of the character, because it's another side of him. You can see he's more reacting. That's why you can see it can be more violent in a second part, because he's more reacting than acting. He's not planning everything, which is more interesting and makes him more like us, and we love that. We love thinking. We were talking with George, and we were thinking about Hassan being very, very smart and know exactly what he does when he's a part of stealing or robberies, but when it's about emotion and his family, it's different. He's more weak, and which is very interesting, and it makes the character more precise and interesting as an actor.
And when you have there's one scene I'm thinking particularly when you think that your son might have died, your response to that is a stunning emotional moment, like the ultimate emotional moment. How do you prepare yourself for that kind of scene?
It was very hard because it's not exactly the tone of the show, and that was the only moment that we have that, and it was a real concern to have the right level of it, not to be too dramatic and not overdoing it. So I remember those by Ludovic Bernard, and we did multiple texts, and we wanted to have the right level. So I did it many times, and I tried each level, every step of it to go the highest possible. But I wanted him to have every step to be able at the editing to have like the right level of it, because that moment was really intense, but at the same kind of ambience. But to be prepared of that, it's always difficult. But my concern was to have like the right. But it's so horrible that you have just to connect to the fact that something happened. But it was where we were concerned for the whole, show.
Mm. And George, in terms of writing those episodes, I think because we're so used to in the first part in a very jaunty kind of fun tone of the show. When it gets into these big emotional moments, was it tough to kind of get the tone right of that shift?
Well, one of the things we worked on early on is that almost every episode of Lupin is its own little genre. So you have quite, in the first part you have a kind of heist, then you have a prison episode, and we try and mix emotions the whole time across the show anyway. So you might have quite a fun story of the week, as we might call it, where there's a sort of self-contained adventure that's going to further Hassan on his arc. But then we're always kind of counteracting that with some stuff from his youth, so the whole show is a mixture of genres. I think at the very end of part one, when Raoul is taken, and Omar and I talked about this a lot together, was that really we agreed. We actually took out some of the more fun tone in the episodes 6 and 7 because we agreed that at this point Hassan would put aside all of his witty structural kind of planning and actually go on his gut a lot more. And at the end of the day, he's a father who hasn't got his kid, and homages to Arsène Lupin can wait while you go trying to get your kid back. And suddenly, as Omar says, you become weak because you're acting with your heart. You're not thinking with your, it's heart governing head, and all those kind of cute plans you see in part one slightly fall to the wayside for a period, because we want that guy. We want Hassan Diop to be a brilliant superhero who can rob the Louvre without breaking sweat, but he's a real dad with real care for his kid, and like anyone else, he suddenly would be kind of thrown. So it became darker and more primal and more kind of relatable because Raoul was missing. So that sort of determined the tone, really.
And Isabelle, I wanted to mention Etain Simon, who plays Raoul, who is amazing in the role. Was it hard to find a young actor for this role? Or how did you find it?
I didn't catch what you said.
Oh, the actor who plays Raoul. I wondered how you found him, and whether it was hard to find he's so good in the role, so natural. Whether it's hard to find a young actor for that role.
You are, excuse me. Are you talking about Lupin?
Raoul.
Yes, Raoul.
Raoul, yeah.
Raoul. Thank you,
yeah.
Raoul. Yes, you know, we did a very big casting, and at the end, we had two boys who were very, very interesting, and we present them to Omar. And with Omar, we were hesitating between two because both were very, very good, but Raoul had something that the other one didn't have. So at the end of the day, we decided to work with Raoul, and yes, he's very, very good, and we are very happy to work with him. And I think it was for him a very interesting experience because working with Omar, it was his first experience on set. So he had to learn a lot, and he was discovering what we were doing. He was discovering his character. So for him, it was very new, and yes, it was surprising.
And Omar, did you have to be fatherly on set a little bit?
I always try to do, and I can't help it. You know, I always be, you know, because as a father, when you're around kids, you always like try to, you know, make sure that everything is fine for them. But the cool thing for all the kids we have on the show, they are like it's like wide casting, and it's for all of them. It's a first experience, so there is something very rare and very natural that helps, you know, and sometimes you cannot have with professionals, you know, young actors. So which is really good. So that we could, you know, work with them and have something very, very fresh and that we can work with. So yeah, we try to make them comfortable, but at the same time we help them on the work. And for Etain, it was hard at the beginning because he's kind of stubborn a little bit, but it good because even when we were, you know, trying to make him work, and it sometimes was more difficult than others, but we build a relationship as like a father and son. So sometimes he look at me like you're boring and you're you know, leave me alone. And sometimes you know, it's like, you know, father and son, and we have those kind of relationship, which is really, really cool actually, because at the end, you know, we really, really have a kind of a bond, you know, so which is really cool, and it helps for the show actually.
He is amazing, yeah. George, I want to also in particular, I feel in the second in this new second half of the series, it's still an incredible amount of fun, but you're also, I think, smuggling in almost social observations, not just racism, but also class. I think they're just little moments. There's the guy who won't let young Hassan rent the violin. That little scene. Was that a deliberate thing that you wanted to step up the social commentary in a way?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the whole plan is to try and smuggle in these things, as you say, and make these kind of social points as we go, but never to kind of over-pronounce it. So fun's the main ingredient, hopefully. And then, you know, Arsène Lupin, which is obviously the source material, creates problems for us as writers and creators where we have to do robberies and break-ins and all these kind of things. So when we're storylining for Lupin, we're looking at the natural barriers in life, and sometimes natural barriers come in the form of prejudices and so on, in class, in age, in race, or whatever the issue might be. And where there are those cultural blind spots gives kind of both young Hassan's character and Hassan as the main Hassan, as played by Omar, opportunities to kind of circumvent or break in or get around things. So we can make these little points, but we can also use them as a kind of tool for our story to how to kind of create an adventure. So it's always good when you've got so the prejudice that young Hassan faces with the violin, gives him a greater idea in terms of getting a violin, and also builds his story of how he becomes a master thief over time. That robbery doesn't go great, but it's his first sort of foray into that. And so we can imagine that from that moment, these are the first kind of learning steps building up towards becoming a master thief in adult life. So you believe it when you then see Omar pull it off with aplomb in the kind of main story.
And Omar, was it important to you that the show deals with these ideas as well as being a romp, like as we'd say? It's also looking at those issues, and I mean, for example, police corruption is there for all to see. It's quite bold, I think, in the way it addresses issues.
Yeah, it was interesting. We wanted to do that. It wasn't something like obligatory for us. We just wanted to have that, but having that in a different way. The cool part for me, it's because we're using it, in our story, and it's really a part of our story. It's not the main topics of it, not the most important, the priority themes, but it's a part of it, and we're using it, and it's kind of a fun, like, for example, Hassan using the fact that he's a cleaner to rob. It is something very important on a social aspect, but at the same time, it's very smart as a robber. So this balance, it's something that's very, very clever, I think, that George brought, and I think it's the best way to talk about it, because it's not judgmental, and it's not like we want to teach the world how to behave, or we're gonna say how things goes on in France, but just we play with it, we tell us our story, but at the same time, we say something very precise and important, and on a social, racial aspect, which is, I think, very smart. And I think the lighter it is, the more impactful you can be.
Sure. Isabelle, I wanted to ask about the style, the incredible style and look of the show. It's beautifully shot. There's a kind of sheen almost of it, and to the costumes. The costumes are kind of fascinating and interesting. Hassan's big coat and his Air Jordan trainers and all of that. Did you all sit down before filming and thrash these things out, how you'd make the show look and feel unique?
I think Louis Leterrier, who is the director of the first three episodes, was very important for all these decisions, because he shows his team, like Olivier Berriot, who is the creator of the costumes, of the costumes, and Olivier Berriot is a very, very good and important creator here in France. And Olivier talked to Omar, to George, to everyone, and obviously with Louis Leterrier, to catch what we wanted to do. Arsène Lupin in France is very well known, but is a little bit old. It is an old character. So we wanted to have a very modern character, but we had to reinvent everything, because what is Arsène Lupin here in France in the 21st century? So 21st century. So it was all this work with the director Louis Leterrier, and it was the same with all the sets. We wanted to show a very nice Paris. Here in France, Paris, we live in Paris, so we don't see how Paris is beautiful. So in our series, usually we don't film Paris like a very, very nice city. And Louis Leterrier, who lives in Los Angeles, he knows that Paris is an exceptional city. So he wanted to film Paris, to show Paris to all over the world. So it was all this, this work with Louis, and all the discussions that we had with Omar and with George and with us and all the team.
And I read that you're filming in the Louvre, for example, the opening heist. How is it easy, difficult to film there? And you've got to be careful do you have to close the whole thing down? And how did that work?
It's difficult to film there because everything is very fragile. but the team in the Louvre is very cool, and with them, if you have them with you, you can have access to everything. You have to pay something, but you can have access to everything. So they are very smart for that. And in Gaumont, we were still filming in the Louvre in another series. So we knew the team, and they gave us, and they knew that Arsène Lupin could be a very big series. It was for Netflix, it was with Omar, it was Arsène Lupin. So they gave us access to everything we wanted.
And Omar, is it true that you found yourself one-on-one with the Mona Lisa for a few minutes during film?
Yes. It's a really cool story. That you know how is it when you get on a new set? So you're very excited, even if it's the Louvre. You're very exciting for the first day, and you're looking everywhere. You're so excited because like you can expect that we'll have like a lot of restriction, for shooting there. But actually, they were very, very, very helpful and very, very nice and light with us. We had access to everywhere and everything, so they were very, very with us for the show. So we were so excited to shoot there, and it was like that for the first day. But you know how it is. The second day you just come to shoot, and you are focused on what you have to do. You focus on your line. You focus on your acting. And it was for the first episode, so we were like very, very focused. And after a take, you go back to your chair, and you're just waiting for the team to call you. And I realized, I was on my phone, and I realized that I was alone in the room, but the room was the room where is the Mona Lisa. So I just realized that I was alone with her. So I started my clock, just to see how long it's gonna stay, and it's been like almost 15 minutes, almost 15 minutes alone with her. I don't know if a lot of people can say that. It was amazing. I will never forget that.
Wow, that's incredible. And she has a famously mysterious smile. Which you often have a mysterious smile in the show as well. Like you have a little rhyme. We're not quite sure which way you're thinking. Were you influenced by her?
Maybe we are related. Maybe it's a whole cousin or something like that.
Yeah. And George, the part 2 has this incredible finale in the theatre. When you're writing that, do you have to be aware first that you're going to have a location? Do you have to make sure you can do all the things you want to do with the location? It strikes me as an incredibly ambitious.
We learned. It was a real exciting learning curve, because when I was writing episode 1, I put, because I'm usually quite good with budget and stuff. I'm always thinking, well, what can we afford? And I put interior Louvre day in the script, and I thought, well, that's going to change because and then I forgot to change it in the script. I sent that draft in, and then before I could change it, one of the producers, Martin, said, "Oh, by the way, the Louvre said yes," and I was like, "Oh, okay." So I was just going to pretend that I always assumed that was fine. And then once we set the bar at the Louvre, then it was like, well, let's keep using Paris. Let's go. And I was in Paris a lot, and writing and working full time. So I would just go on a bicycle and ride, and we would talk about cool places to visit in Paris that we could use, like the Théâtre du Châtelet, which is the finale, or the Musée d'Orsay and the catacombs. And it was great. It just, by pushing Hassan as a character to those places, you see them from a fresh angle the whole time. So it's great. So we're going to continue to try and use Paris as our kind of playground.
Right. And Isabelle, with all those locations, the catacombs stuff is amazing. What was the biggest challenge out of all of those?
I would say it was the catacombs, because, and I think Omar can talk about that, because it's very small, and it was very hard to have all the team, everyone in these catacombs. I think it was the most challenging, because shooting in a museum, it's very difficult to have the access, to have the authorizations, to have everything. But when you are in the museum, you have all the museum for you, and if you be careful, you can do what you want. It is the same with the museum. But the catacombs is it's very rare to have all the authorizations to shoot in the catacombs, and shooting in there is very hard. So I think it was the most challenging.
Omar, was that right?
Yeah, it was. I think that was the most difficult set for us, because because especially more for the crew than us, because think that you have to bring all the material down, and it's like going down for 15 floors, down. So you have to go down with the material, going up. So it was very, very difficult for them. But for us, it was also difficult because the air over there, it's kind of weird, a lot of humidity. So the way you breathe over there, it's kind of, weird. And there is a lot, we have 2 actors with claustrophobia. So it's not a good place for that. And you can be lost. There is a lot of, stuff that that is not a normal set. Like I just told you the Mona Lisa story, that you're on your set and you forget even where you are because it's your set now. You can appropriate the place, but that's something that will never happen in a catacomb. Every minute where you are, and you cannot forget where you are. So that's why it was, I think, the most difficult set for us. But in terms of restriction, I would say Châtelet. The Châtelet people were more, on us. If I want to say it properly.
They were on you, right?
Yeah.
Let's see. George, I wanted to ask about, to ask you about the whole look and feel and style of the show. Did you kind of create a Bible of how you wanted the show to look and feel, and what were the influences on that, if you like? What kind of things were you inspired by?
I was inspired by quite a range of things, really. I was looking back a lot at kind of 80s, 90s network TV, because actually we set out really early to make a show for the whole family. And that feels quite a rare thing, or has felt quite a rare thing of late. So I was remembering shows that I grew up watching, and I've got kids, and I just think, what would they like to watch that we would put up with watching? Because often it's I think a show where children want to watch with adults, and they want to reach up to watch a lead performer like Omar in this case. It's a cool way to get the whole family around the TV. So I was looking at family TV shows like odd stuff like Quantum Leap or X-Files or A-Team or Tea Time TV, basically, and kind of creating these self-contained genre stories for each week. But then a whole range of other stuff, like The Killing, the Kubrick film, was a kind of like twisting plot, repeating scenes, showing different POVs, flashbacks, a whole mixture of stuff, because it's really a big kind of melting pot of different like genres and styles, all in the same kind of family tone. So I guess family shows, family network TV was a big reference point.
And Omar, Hassan is such an interesting character because he plays lots of different characters himself. He's in just different disguises and all of that. And did you? I noticed you have a different kind of walk in the show from when you're playing him when he's triumphantly disposed of villains, or when he might be more crouched down when he's playing an older guy. Did you have to study those walks yourself? Did you come up with those on the spur of the moment?
Yeah, it's that's why for me Hassan and Lupin are the best character you can have as an actor. It's really I call that the best toy I can have, because playing with him it's amazing, because you have those occasions that you can create something like that. That having just wearing a pair of glass, it makes you the disguise, because it comes with your attitude. So it's not the pair of glass, but it's going to be the way you talk, the way you walk, the way you're going to feel the room. So that was very interesting for me as an actor to play only with that. That's why when we talk with George and we talk about the new character, that it's going to be just a slight physical change, and all the rest would be the acting, because those characters, Lupin, Hassan, all of them are actors, and they create other people with the voice and the body language, because the body language it's almost 70 or 80% of the way we communicate, and those people really understood that. So it's really interesting for me to work Hassan in that way. So each time we have a character, we'll see what's going to be the look, and with the look you find the voice, you find the way to move, the way to walk, and everything, which is a perfect, laboratory for me, because as an actor, that's only what I need, and that's my pleasure to create. I love create something like that. That's why with Hassan there is no routine possible. You always have to create something else. It's never ending, creation. So which is really, really pleasant.
Yeah, it must be the most fun you can have with a character.
Sure.
Yeah. I'm going to go to the viewers' questions in a second, but I just wanted finally to ask you, George, before we do that. As you talked about having the kind of bait and switch elements, the twists, you play with time, and you'll create a character, and then next episode you'll show us what they really like and all of that. But you also built in these flashbacks all the way through to the youths of the main character. Was that something just to make it even more complicated for you to write? How was that, and why did you want to incorporate those?
Because I think with such a multifaceted character like Hassan, someone who's going to play many different parts, and we're never going to know fully the truth when we're watching Hassan. We don't know if he's up to something. We don't know what he's planning. He's often one step ahead of the audience. It's really cool to counterbalance that with the kind of emotional grounding. So everything in his youth, we use it in, I try and use it in the kind of present tense story as a kind of source for emotion, audience understanding of where he's come from, and also more and more as the show grows, like a kind of a source for ideas. So you'll see sometimes in part 2, he like with the catacombs, he'll take an idea or a place from his youth, and then he'll repackage it to get out of a situation in his adult life. But mainly the emotional grounding, I think, that we need to know where he's come from, need to know the truth about the guy before he puts on all these disguises.
Sure. Right, so we've got questions coming in. First of all, Peter asks, this is for you, George, following Criminal UK and the other European versions, and now Lupin, your name in the credits makes a show a must-watch for me. How has it been writing 2 shows for Netflix with an international flavour?
It's been great. I mean, it's just like watching, it's just like working on, what I found is it's just like working on any production, whether it's the UK, France. We did Criminal in Spain. There's just loads of talented producers, performers all around the continent, and it's been great experience. And thankfully, everyone's English is really good, so it's helped me. But it's been great fun, and twice in France, because Criminal, we did Criminal France, so it gave me a first taste of working in Paris, which was cool.
And Ian asks, Isabelle, how did you know there was a market for the story, and what did you find captivating about it?
Oh, first of all, Lupin, as I said, Lupin is a very big brand here in France. So we knew that in France, everyone will be curious to see Lupin, what we could do with Lupin. Everything was very curious to see Omar playing Lupin, and discovering that Omar doesn't play Lupin, but they didn't know that. But we didn't know that the series, that the character of Lupin would be a very big success all around the world, because the character was not well known all over the world. So it was, for us, it was a very nice surprise.
I bet. A question for Omar from Soam. Having watched all the parts, I'd love to know which one was your favorite episode to act in and why.
It's really difficult to just separate one episode to another, because what it is, my concern is I'm really happy about the whole show, because Hassan's journey is really interesting for me, and it's all in one piece for me. I don't see that as an episode, but I remember that maybe the first episode was something more, important for us because we were all, searching and find our way, in the show. I had to create this character, Hassan, the style of the show. Everything was, that moment was something very special because it was the first one, and we were creating more than the others. So I would pick the first one because it was the beginning of the story.
Right. Thank you. Emma asks, thank you all for a fantastic show. Could you talk a little about the development process? George, did you take the idea of an updated Lupin to the producers, or did they come to you?
No, they came to me. Omar had been talking to Netflix and Gaumont, and they wanted to do Arsène Lupin, or a show featuring Omar based on a character around Arsène Lupin. Because I was working on other Netflix series at the time, my name came up as a writer. So I came to, Isabelle came to London, and we had a first cup of coffee. And then I came to Paris for lunch with Omar. And so I was getting to know Omar and Gaumont at the same time as I was getting to know Arsène Lupin. So it was a whole lot of new information at once. But they already had the idea, the package of Omar and Arsène Lupin by the time I came along. So I don't know, maybe you guys can explain a bit more, Omar, about your idea for that, because I came afterwards.
As Isabelle.
Okay, I can begin, and maybe Omar, you can go on after me. We wanted to, Arsène Lupin, this character, is in the public domain in France, so everyone can use it without paying anything. So, and this came in the public domain, I would say 10 years ago. No, not 10 years ago, maybe 5 or 6 years ago. So 5 or 6 years ago, everyone in France discovered that Arsène Lupin was in the public domain. So every producer in France wanted to do Arsène Lupin. And the French broadcasters received a lot of Arsène Lupin shows or ideas or propositions, and they said, no, we have too much propositions for Arsène Lupin, so we won't do one. And after that, Netflix arrived in France, and we had the first discussions with Damien Couvreur in Netflix. First of all with Omar, because he wanted to play Arsène Lupin, and I talked to Damien at Netflix. We knew that Arsène Lupin was a very, very big brand, and I told him that we wanted to do Arsène Lupin. We had a first idea which was written, and I told him that it was with Omar, and Damien told me, okay, you can send me the document because it's very interesting.
Right.
Yeah. On my side, it was, because with Gomo, we have a long story because we did The Untouchable together. We did also Chocolat. So all my very big important project with Gomo. So we have a particular relationship, and so I know that they wanted to have a show, in France with Netflix because they also have a relationship with Netflix. So we were talking about what we can do together as a show. So we're starting to talk about Lupin because Lupin is, like I said, the perfect toy for an actor. So they said we wanted to have Lupin. We have a Lupin in our drawer, so let's do Lupin. So we started to talk, about the Lupin and how can we do that, because like Isabelle said, there was a lot of production that wanted to do Lupin, but the thing is, why doing Lupin? What one more Lupin? Because I don't know, if you know, but in France we have a lot of shows about Lupin. We have a lot of books, a lot of movies. So we have to have something special to do one more. So the reflection went till we decided to have maybe not playing Lupin, but maybe having a character inspired by Lupin. And I think that triggered everything. And then, the process went, and we're here today. So it was a lot of conversation between Gaumont, Netflix, and I, and then Louis came, and then George. And when George came, everything went very, very fast, and we were on set right away. So it was very interesting process, and very interesting to see how like a big can I say item, something like that? Item is the right word, like Lupin, a franchise that it's maybe like a little bit old, but it's just have to revisit and rethink can be something very interesting. And I think the fact that when George came, he brought something very interesting, because like he just said, he didn't know who Lupin was. So his look at Lupin, the way he thinks Lupin, was so new that I think it helped us to desacralize the object, because for us Lupin is something really, really big and huge, and George came with a new eye and helped us a lot to make it very new and fresh.
Yeah, having a character inspired by Lupin is genius. Yeah.
Yes, and I think it was the smarter idea to have, and it was Omar's idea to have a character inspired by Lupin and not Lupin, because with that we are totally free. We can tell the series, the stories we want to tell. So it was a very, very good idea.
Yeah.
You're free with that, and you're free with I was free because I had no burden of knowing the kind of what a responsibility Lupin is as an adapter or a kind of writer. So we were all free to explore it for the things we wanted to say and leave the rest of it alone. So it was great.
Exactly, and just pick what we want from the book, and only the thing that we want.
Yeah.
Yes, and with that idea, we also have another dimension which is very important for us, which is the transmission. It is like a father who wants to transmit something to his son.
Yeah.
And the link between father and son is the book, it's Lupin. So the transmission for us was very important in the series, and with that idea, it was very easy.
Thank you. A couple more questions. Alia asks, Omar, what was your favorite disguise in the show?
It's not more the disguise, but more the character. I love the tech guy, with the orange hat. I think is the funniest for me. It was the most pleasant for me to play. It was very interesting.
Yeah, he was great. And Lawrence asks also for Omar, did you have to train in pickpocketing or any other special training?
I didn't need training for that.
And finally, from Lubs on YouTube, how will you continue to keep Lupin quintessentially French despite its international attraction?
That's the more international we are. Sorry, George, but I think the more international we are, the more French we have to stay, because we don't want to lose, our DNA, in a space. So we have to stay French. We'll have for sure a little bit of English taste, but we find that George will bring a more and more English taste, but we love it because Arsène Lupin is a gentleman, so we need that. But no, we're gonna stay French, right, Josh?
Yeah. Well, the thing that it's so obvious when you go to Paris is how great Paris is, and you want to tell stories there, even though they're universal themes. So we can really enjoy the Frenchness. For me, is a treat, and we love it. So I think that's people like Frenchness, and that's what gives it international appeal anyway.
Yeah. And Lupin is a very French character. He's a French lover. Yeah. He's smart. He's very well dressed, and he's fun. So we won't lose that.
You've summed it up brilliantly. Yeah. Thank you so much, Isabelle, George, and Omar, for answering our questions. It's been brilliant. Congratulations on a fantastic show. And it's 15 seconds to 8 o'clock, so just in time for to move on, just in time for kickoff. Congratulations. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.